You are listening to the Firecracker podcast with Tony Rico.
Okay, we are in the studio today with, I'll say, another special guest. All our guests are special.
I'm special.
But when you're here, you're extra special. So we've got a Firecracker alumni, Lexi Robles, with us today. And gosh, Lex, you kind of emerge on my phone or in my life about once every year and a half, maybe, something like that.
If you're lucky too, and you know, you're one of the lucky few.
and I feel that way, but it always makes me feel so good. So Lexi had reached out and just actually wanted to come down and hang out and maybe go to lunch and talk a little bit, but I figured we'd pull you into our production day. So we've got some exciting stuff going around here. But Lexi is a Firecracker alumni, and what years did you play for us?
I graduated in 2013, and I played with you 4.5 years. So like 2009.
You were a freshman.
I was 8th grade. I was going into my freshman year.
Wow.
I was a baby.
So that part of the learning curve for our team is there was a day when I wouldn't have had freshmen on our team. Just figured it wasn't right. And then, expand my horizons a little bit. And so I think Hallie Wilson might have been the first.
Yeah. I think I was the second.
But that's a legacy. Wow.
Pup.
You were the pup.
Yeah, with that backpack that was the same size as me.
That's, and I think, so the 5 pups out there, the 10 pups that have played on our team that know what that means, you're the youngest one on our team.
Yeah.
And like anywhere else in teams, you have certain responsibilities, but they weren't that bad. The pup bag?
No, because the class the ones that were above me, they weren't so like, well, no, you're just...
Not too much. They weren't into hazing.
Exactly.
But there were responsibilities that...
Yes, and you know what? I knew my role. I knew my place to a certain extent, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. That's my job. Push it. They never did.
So did the pup bag, when you were playing, have the heavy... so John Diggs, rest his soul and bless his heart, used to love to put the shut screws and all the heavy metal in there. That was about 12 pounds of stuff. So that was in there. Okay.
Yeah. And it was probably like, 2 feet wide?
Yeah. Well, our alumni always like to hear me say stuff like, well, I think after that, I took the screws out and realized that's a little heavy. So to hear that people's lives got easier after you left, it's not always well received. That was a few years ago. And so 4 years on the team. And if we go back even earlier to kind of getting started in travel ball, we quickly mentioned before we went on the air, you coming in with the Lakewood ladies.
Yes. So, the story that I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
So I was on, a couple other teams, not very well known, getting through. I'm the first one of 4, so we didn't really know much.
Grew up in?
Covina.
Okay.
Yes.
And came out of Covina Rec League?
Charter Oak.
Charter Oak.
Yes, Charter Oak. I played Charter Oak. And funny story is my very first tryout ever, I cried in the dugout. My parents forced me.
So I was just going to ask you, so going to travel ball, that was something they said, hey, let's go do this.
Yeah, it kind of just naturally happened. One of the girls that I played with at Charter Oak, her dad started a travel ball team. He transitioned to a travel ball team, the Bombers, SoCal Bombers. And Alexis Gonzalez.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And so that just happened, and, that was 10 and under. I went to travel ball. And from there, just was a couple other teams, and I remember we had, for the very first time, we saw Lakewood ladies play, and we see Tina and Missy and all of them just hitting bombs. And it was a hill that had like a steep slope, like in the outfield. And you just see these balls rolling down. And we're like, who the heck is that?
Yeah.
And so they had seen me play. Didn't know, we just admired them. We watched them, had no idea. And they had gotten contact with my parents. And they, scheduled my parents to come, meet with us, talk to us about the team. And to this day, if you ask Coach George about it, the very first memory he has of me is I was in the front yard with my sisters, and we were playing handball against the garage wall. And I was in a skirt because, my mom wanted me to be presentable and all that. And I was playing in my skirt. Oh, yeah, just sliding around on the concrete, not caring. And, yeah, he said from there he knew.
Did he notice your hands then?
Probably.
So Coach George Araujo, who's now a coach at Cal State Fullerton, and a very dear man to all of us, and is such an important part of the Firecracker history books, bringing in the chapter of Lakewood ladies, and then becoming Lakewood Firecrackers, and then merging, and then us bringing 5 players. I wish we could have brought more, but 5 players over to our team. That you guys all kind of created your own legacy as well. But bringing that point up, because George is he was an infielder. He's a great infield coach. And so Lexi was just one of these, and I can't just give it up to your heritage of being Latina or something, but, you know, she just had the smooth hands. I mean, she just had those, you know, you talk about infielders and middle infielders and making it look easy. So you had that, and I'm sure George, you know, it didn't take too long. And I would imagine even at 10 years old, you were looking pretty smooth.
What I was going to say, too, is my dad, the very first thing he ever taught me is, you know, you look good. That's the first thing someone's going to see. And it was always smooth, no matter what I did. Basketball, smooth, smooth, smooth. And so being with George, it just brought me to another level of, you know, being able to have the range and doing all these other things that I wasn't aware of.
Some of the skill work.
Exactly.
Do you think so your dad was involved in boxing a little bit?
Yes.
So do you think some of that dialogue from him about rhythm?
Oh, yeah.
And you know, because that's huge. Because I feel like so
Very
often
much.
I'm the first coach to talk about that with so many players. And you had a musical, a tempo component, which I incorporated into our teaching a lot. And that's what made it really good to watch. I didn't know that your dad was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And everything with him, in you know, it's rhythm, but for him, it was everything, just feel it. And he just made these noises moving, just like throwing his hands and doing those motions. And,
Makes me want to ask what his boxing training was like and if that was also part of it.
Oh, yeah. Since I was little, I just remember doing the gloves, and he would put out a rope, and I would just move. Yeah. And, you know, it was always like, okay, now move.
That's
just
boxing,
move.
Right?
Oh, yeah, just flow with it. Just
Did he
everything.
have you boxing too?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it stopped for a little bit, and I'll never forget.
Put the gloves on you in your skirt at what age?
Oh, I was probably kindergarten before then.
And were you into it or?
Yes, I love to this day. Even my fiance, he does boxing too as well. And when we train and stuff, he'll just work with me, and we'll just keep doing that. And I still feel it in that sense.
Do you hold the gloves for him or anything, or
he'll hold it for me? He's a little too strong.
That's pretty impressive, though. That's pretty good stuff. Yeah, that's a unique part of your background too. So Lex, I'll describe you as a confident, not conceited. You're very gracious, but you own yourself. And I love this part of your story because, you know, I mean, like myself, God didn't make us 6 foot and give us the biggest bones and longest arms or anything, but you are really an example of knowing who you are and always presenting yourself. So even talking about whether how you present yourself on the field or how you like to look and the way you dress and present yourself. But you said something that your dad had mentioned about owning it or just how you present yourself. And it always reminds me of Coach Normie.
Yes.
And again, he was another coach that, again, has passed away and is a big part of our history books and still in our hearts. But another coach that would talk about walking into the room and you become the room.
Oh, yes. I remember those conversations like yesterday, and I remember the one thing me and Normie bonded over too, especially was his love for shoes and his glasses. And he's like, you know, when I die, my wife's going to find my stash of glasses and my shoes, and she's going to bring me back from the grave and kill me again. And I'll never forget that. And I would just laugh. I'm like, oh, that's going to be me one day.
That is so great that you brought that up. We just had our third golf tournament, and you should ink that in for next year to join us on that day. And, you know, just some memories and different things like that. But that would be a great memory because that was actually mentioned a few times about a shoe collection. And
one thing that stuck with me too was I never to this day have heard it since him is he wears his socks inside out. Always wears socks inside out.
That's right.
Because they were softer on the outside.
That is right. And Jackson Socks, so he was the equipment manager guru and so knew the ins and outs of care of your uniform and different things like that.
You know, to this day, I still use Simple Green and soak all of my white clothes. You know,
this is so great to keep it alive like that.
It is, and it would kill me when we would travel the next day and our white clothes were just sitting there in dirt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's turning in his grave. I know it.
Well, John Dakes he was very clean conscious as well. And John Dakes he'd always talk to the girls before we head out on the road for the summer and say, all right, you gotta make sure you got your shoelaces. Extra shoelaces, you got this.
Yes.
And the girls would always be like, no, really, John? And then the first time somebody ties their shoe before a game and that shoelace snaps, and John would just look over like, I tried to tell you. And then John would give the talks about washing your clothes in the sink in the hotel room and wringing them out and just hanging them over and letting them drip dry and stuff. He was never received, you know, with enough seriousness that I don't know if anyone took it, but he knew how to take care of himself. John, he was never unkept and never had a hair out of place. And
I don't think
Normie too.
That.
So you talk about, we had two of the most stylish men.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, it's not bragging, but I think it's just a fact that if you went for the top most stylish
Oh, yeah.
coaches in softball.
Normie never had like any wrinkles in his shorts. Never. It was just like that one pleat
so
down
funny.
the middle.
That's just so funny that you notice stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Coming into the softball world, I didn't notice or care about anything like that. And it wasn't until Jonathan from the Glove informed me that our players look like they've been dressed by football coaches and baseball players. And I started to become conscious of like those types of things, wrinkles in the pants, all of those things. And the game kind of changed there. So let's go back a little bit to Lakewood ladies. So, all right, so you got the tryout, you're a little nervous. And that was for the Bombers, right? And then you see Tina Yosefa and Missy Takeaho hitting bombs for the Lakewood ladies.
Oh, yeah.
And so George goes over your house, has the conversation, and then that was what age? So 5th grade, 6th grade?
Yes. 6th grade. 6th grade. And everyone else was in 7th grade.
So Lakewood ladies, and then you guys had won a national championship?
Yeah.
A year or two later after that?
I think it was that same year. And the next year, it was the same year.
So the core of that team being, name your teammates of that team.
Coral, Missy, Gordy, Tina, Adika. I feel like I'm missing some people, but those are the main ones that are coming to my head. Kayla Pepes.
Yeah, there you go.
Best friend still to this day. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. And I don't like to forget Jenna Kelly.
I didn't play with Jenna.
She wasn't on your team. Okay, she must have been afterwards or something. But I thought that.
Oh no! You know what?
No,
she was older than me.
But
she was on the black team.
But she was the day that.
Because there was
searching my memory banks. I'm wondering if she was on the field or with the team the day that I asked you guys to the.
She played with
team.
Katie.
Okay.
Yeah, if my memory serves me correct, I didn't.
Now we're both getting old.
You're telling me.
I just threw you in with me. So you guys had some success with the Lakewood ladies, and I'm forgetting kind of how George and I initiated the relationship and some of the conversations, and then he gave me a call one day and says, "I got a crazy idea. I don't know if you're going to like it, but I want to run it by you." And I'm like, "Okay, I like crazy ideas." He says, "What if we got together and called our team the Lakewood Firecrackers?" And the very first reaction that I thought was Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. Two big names kind of coming together. And how did that register? It's kind of like, I can get an enchilada. That's how old I am. I don't think they make those anymore. And a pizza or something. So I thought, wow. And the other thing was that Lakewood and Lakewood ladies, there weren't a lot of other Lakewood teams. So it wasn't like you had these Lakewood Athletics or Lakewood Bloom and Lakewood. So Lakewood ladies, that all to be kind of registered the same. So when you took the ladies out, it became Lakewood Firecrackers. The Lakewood to me was the Lakewood ladies. So it got an interesting reaction. And it was one of the first times some of the mergers had started taking place. And it really worked. And so the core players, like I said earlier, that I wish we could have pulled more over is we pulled you, Coral Costa, Gordy Bravo, Missy Takeaho, Tina Yosefa. I think that was it.
Katie.
And Katie.
Katie was the first one. She was like our entryway.
Did she come the year before?
Yes. Was it the year before or the same year? No, it was a year before.
Okay.
And then it was kind of not like a fill out, but she was the first one. Yes. And then the next year or that next summer, or fall, I'm so lost. Then the rest of us had come in.
But that was it. I mean, there wasn't like there were all these Lakewood ladies teams and we kept feeding. That was just a short little extraction. I remember the day watching, making the final decisions. The last player that I had asked that day was Coral. And it really came down to, I don't think she had the greatest day on the field, but when I asked myself the question, would I be okay if I saw her in another dugout doing well against us? And there's a lot of times I tell myself, yeah, that's fine. I'll accept that. It was a no for Coral. And so to see everyone going on to their careers and everyone and made some noise and did well, and you guys all represented and had your value in your program. So you played for us. And are there any memories, any defining moments? Your time with the Firecrackers was 4 years. So, and like I say, I enjoy this time that we can be friends. And I tell our coaches, we are friendly with our players and families, but we're truly not friends until our work is done and we see each other afterwards. Because for me to declare myself as your friend when I'm making lineups and have to make decisions, that can jeopardize that relationship. So, I mean, I don't love you any more or less than I did before, but it's just a different type of relationship. So the training on our team prepares you to be the best. Wasn't easy.
Not easy.
Not easy.
What, coming in 5'2", little over 100 pounds,
But
you know?
look at Tina Yosef. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't think it mattered because you were going to get exposed.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to learn some things about yourself. But I'm wondering in your mind, if you think about the Firecracker chapter in your life, what memories stand out with the toughness of the training, the fun of the team, the traveling, the dugout? What comes to mind?
The very first, like, when I think of Firecrackers, I just think of, like, the very first week, 2 weeks, month, where I would just, like, and I'm not a crier, unless I'm watching a sad movie, but I remember just talking to my dad in the car one day after practice, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't know what it is. I'm okay physically, but mentally, I can fall asleep. Like, I'm so mentally drained right now. And it's summer, I didn't have school on top of it, but I just remember, like, I can hang physically, but mentally, I'm just lost.
Did you ever find yourself so I call this the learning curve. Mm-hmm. So in order to get higher than you've ever been performance-wise, you've got to hit your low and learn some things. And so what was it, either driving to practice or games sometimes? I've had other players go, I dreaded going to practice, or I dreaded going because you were going to. Mm-hmm. And, again, I think it's important for coaches to understand before I describe myself as this terrorist and the toughness of the training, but there's balance to the relationship that proves itself over time. But did you ever find yourself just even not dreading driving to the field and stuff, but it wasn't going to be a comfortable day?
The only time I dreaded driving to the field is when I saw that clock go 1 minute past being there 15 minutes early, and I was like, oh my gosh. Or I remember there was one specific time where my alarm just didn't go off, and I showed up almost game time, and I remember talking to Kayla. I'm like, what do I say? She's like, don't say your alarm didn't go off. And I just went about my business. I got the silent treatment, which I think is the most effective way rather than yelling. And I just was like, oh my gosh, the not knowing. And not that you're...
Did it only happen once? You showed up late? I don't have a memory of it. I don't know why Missy and Tina, that's a strong memory in my mind, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was one of the very few times, because if my parents weren't out that door, by the time I was like, no, we're going to be half an hour early, I hate to say it now too, I get very like anxiety ridden, and I didn't know anxiety then, where I would just get I would shut down and get almost like an attitude. I'm like, no, we got to go. And I'm like that still with everything though.
Sure.
So, I mean, it prepared me.
I think it's important for coaches to understand that anxiety becomes part of the environment, and that it's kind of like a controlled burn. So if you can create it and manage it and then get them to work with it. So it's not like creating stress for all the wrong reasons, because a lot of teams do that. Yeah. And a lot of coaches do that. And a lot of players play under the wrong type of stress or anxiety that they don't know how to handle. But it's kind of a controlled, I just say torture. I always go to these, I think of like how tough it could have been. But in the end, what did you end up learning about yourself? I mean, you learned to play the game a certain way.
Yes.
Mentally, I think behaviorally, which you already had a presence. So it's not like you had to learn.
What I had to learn.
Presence, but you had to learn what?
Yes, I had to learn that I had a presence. I was very if you would have saw me with my freshman year, I would have been like, no way, I'm not talking in front of this. But I had to learn I had a presence, and
So for any players or parents of players that might be listening to, describe some of that behavior on the field and what makes a difference. Because again, 5'2", but you play like you're 6'8".
Oh yeah.
So describe that. Describe what's important for our parents and players to understand about that. Because when they're worried and they don't understand the stress or anxiety they're under, it affects their behavior. So what advice would you have to anybody listening about the importance of behavior and how you take the field, and walking, talking, pointing?
I mean, it's probably one of the most important things.
I mean, your primary positions were what?
Middle infield, second short. Well, I started off shortstop,
right?
And
so you have a responsibility to lead.
Oh yeah, and even in college or anywhere I played, I learned how to play second base like a shortstop. If someone's not going to take charge, then I'm going to.
Up the middle. If you're at second base and the shortstop is talented but maybe not as communicative, or then somebody else has to take charge.
Someone has to lead the field. Someone has to tell someone where they're going. Yeah. Not everyone's going to be there all the time or hasn't had the training they had. like I've had.
And that's really where your value was highest, was
Yes,
defensively.
defensively.
You were known as one of the best infielders in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're not a natural home run hitter, so this was very true for Katie Medina.
Yes.
So Katie Medina went on defensive specialist at University of Florida. And you and Katie are like two peas in a pod. So it's very much the same situation, because shortstop and middle infielders it's one of the few positions where if your defensive holds up better than your offense, it makes sense, because it's so key to be making routine outs and make the plays that need to be made. But I always believe that it's very important to create value if that's not your strong point, your offense. For a lot of players, it's the other way around. You can't be a liability. So you can't be a liability in the lineup where it's like, oh, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I took the approach with you, very similar to Katie Medina, except we didn't have her switch over to the left side as well. Should have. Wonder how she would have done. But that was to make sure that you mastered all components of the fundamental offensive game, which was having good at-bats. As a general rule, I wasn't going to allow you to have 3 at-bats of nothing to show. So we were going to drop a bunt. We were going to move a runner over. We were going to do something, because in the end, when I talked to Tim Walton about Katie, or talked to any coaches about players like that, I said, you have to understand, let's say that you could have a better bat in the lineup where there's that one at bat where you can pinch hit for him, pull somebody off, power hitter, lefties, but whatever it is. But they should have 2 at bats where they're having some type of productivity. I would, in my mind, allow a player like that to, go up, swing away, pop up to shortstop, but one time. After that, we're going to drop something. We're going to do something. At the end of the game, you are going to affect the game offensively, but it might not be the highlight. So, and you really understood that role.
Oh, yes. Yeah. To this day, I love bunting. I'll mess around at practice, be like, watch this bunt, and that was me. That was what drew people, or, not drew people, but,
Well, it can create some intrigue, but if you think about it, it's not the glamorous home run.
It isn't.
I mean, what do people love? They love the fastball, people that throw hard, and they love the home run. We just did a coaching clinic for the Firecracker coaches, and my hour session was on the bunts. And I said, so many of you are just going to, yeah. I said, and then all of a sudden you're facing these pitchers. They're not giving you centered balls to hit. And just like I said, allowing one player to not have 3 at-bats in a row where they weren't productive. But I really don't like having 4 or 5 hitters in a row. If you remember, I get pretty creative offensively, because I don't like anybody doing to us over and over and over. So we always have to get creative. And in the end, it just keeps a flow to the game, and it allows the offense to continue its continuity from batter to batter to batter. So the sneaky bunt and the sacrifice bunt was huge, and always a big part of our offense.
I remember, we wouldn't hit. We would just bunt for like almost an hour sometimes, and
sometimes to take away an off-speed pitch, sometimes just to expose some corners, make defense make a play, sometimes to move a runner over second to third, but we're going to go a little early, staying home on the bunt. We talked a little bit about that stuff, creating squeeze plays, all different things like that. But I think it's a part of the game that's really, really underappreciated.
Oh, yes.
And so you took that with you to St. John's. Yeah. And so you finished your Firecracker career of 4 years, and we send you off to New York.
The big city.
And so what was that like for a spicy, confident, beautiful little Latina girl thinking she was ready?
Thinking, yes.
And then what was it like heading over to New York for?
And then just not a cultural shock, but almost like a cultural shock.
Yeah, it was absolutely a cultural shock.
Because I thought I was spicy. Oh, no. I was mild. Very mild.
So what did you experience initially? A lot of politeness and manners?
No, not at all.
And it's not to say that the East Coasters are bad people if you're listening out there. It's just, it's the way things are there.
Exactly.
We have to adapt to you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they weren't going to adapt to me. You want to move over for people? Go ahead, but you're still going to get ran over by someone else not moving for you.
So, an aggressive.
Very aggressive, which I've come to love. I love it. I love the fast pace of just everything.
So you went from kind of getting shoved at Starbucks or the bagel shop to
being the one shoving someone.
But you had to do it.
It's a dog eat dog sort of lifestyle. It really is. If someone's going to come up to you and cuss you out, okay, well, better be ready to cuss someone else back.
Do they mean it personally?
No. It might just be like you looked at them the wrong way. Listen, you know what? I was looking past you, not through you. Whatever. I mean, it's not that extreme, but it's just an extreme example.
Were you a little self-conscious or unsure at first, or how long did it take for you to really go, okay, I really like this?
it took a while. It took maybe half of my freshman year to really like, okay, you know what? No, I'm not going to be just another person, another student going back home and like, oh, I can't do it. No, it wasn't going to beat me.
So you kind of had a moment.
Yeah. Where it was kind of like, okay.
Put your big girl pants on?
Exactly. And it's like, okay, now I'm going to finish it out. I'm going to do it, suck it up, do what I have to do, figure it out.
Did you have a defining moment in softball where there's a time that you can think about where it's like, what the heck am I worried about? Because this is a relatable story now. Okay. Softball players, how many worry too much? And I feel like if you just really understood the truth and you'd realize I am good, these are just worries and concerns, but I am good, and then you go on into life. And you say, look, I can do this. I can run from my fears. I can cower. I can go home. I can suck it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have that point as a player as well? Or were you always pretty confident?
I was confident playing, and, some of that didn't help, my situation at school, and got to learn.
Overly confident?
No, I don't like... That's one thing. I'll never be cocky. Never be overly confident. But I know what I can and can't do.
You're certain of yourself.
Yeah. On the field, especially. Like on the field, I'm not going to be bossing people around, but I'm going to be like, hey, listen, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. I'm going to be here. You better be there. We're going to do it.
Did you ever hit a low point playing wise? That low point. So, it's very common that players will say, I reached that point or I really considered not playing anymore. Just about every player hits that moment at least once. And if you didn't, I want that to be part of your story because it's very unique. But I don't know why I wouldn't be surprised.
I
Tough
think
times,
my
but not the
sophomore
bottom.
year. Yeah, my sophomore year was probably
high school or college.
College.
Okay, good. You're not on my team.
But it wasn't significant enough where it's like, oh, I'm not going to play anymore. That was never an option. It's never. It's never
such
been
a common story though. So whether it's natural, like I tell people my perception is naturally confident. It's not a fake thing or something. It's just kind of, and you kind of have that. What advice do you, or could we have for people that don't feel like they have the confidence? I mean, you're talking about sucking it up and staying in New York. I mean, you're over there by yourself. You're all by yourself, but what advice do you have for any players, or like I said, people that might be listening, that it comes that point where it's like, am I not going to, because of fear, or just push through it?
I think most of the time, it honestly really is just yourself getting into your head. The one thing that if I can give advice is just remember, like for me, it was always like, okay, now my parents did this, so I'm going to finish. I'm going to do this. What doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to finish. They probably didn't want to wake up. Yeah, they didn't want to wake up at 4:30 a.m., but they did.
Right.
I don't want to get up for the 6 a.m. lift, but I'm going to.
Do you realize more now, or were you pretty aware of the sacrifices your parents were making when you were playing travel ball?
Always aware. Yeah, I think since I was little, I've been very mature for my age since I was really little. I think I've hit where my age and my maturity are pretty there. But I've always been aware. It doesn't matter, whether I was 10 or I knew my sisters were getting up too. So it's like it was never an option not to do it.
Your parents did a good job of instilling the big picture.
Yeah.
And so you never really lost that, which again, I think that when you learn the right playing approach, you avoid the extreme highs, you avoid the extreme lows. You just kind of stay in that middle. Yes, you enjoy things. Okay, life's tough, but it's not this big up and down. So let's go back to New York. And so now you're going to stick with it, just get used to it and say, okay, I'm going to suck it up. And then, so tell me what you love most about living back east. And
I've learned to love just the spiciness, I like that word, of the city, of the lifestyle, of everything. Everyone is so driven, and just, even if it's the smallest thing, they're riding their bikes delivering food, but they're freaking riding those bikes with a purpose.
So you truly could live there without a car. In fact,
I did all 4 years. Yeah. All 4 years.
Did you like that?
Yes.
Do you like being back here with a car now? Or?
I do. It would have been nice to have a car, but driving in that snow and just seeing people's cars get hit, I'm like, oh, I'm all right. Yeah. And the car insurance there is ridiculous.
Don't need to worry about that.
No. Yeah. I lived like a mile from campus, so it was fine.
So you've been back home how long now?
Almost a year now.
Almost a year?
Almost a year now.
Have you went back?
No. I got to save.
You getting the itch?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My best friend, she's actually, she played shortstop. She's back there right now with her family.
Awesome.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, you'll get back. But you've got you got some other priorities.
Yes.
So
I do.
one of the first things you wanted to show me today was you got a little rock on your finger. Congratulations. And your fiance's name is?
Benny.
Benny.
Yes.
And Benny survived the
4 years.
The trip to college.
Yeah. And it was not easy. It wasn't easy. I had to find myself. He had to find himself. Do what we had to do to get through it. He went to school too and figured it out. I figured it out.
So we'll keep this part quick because we can get caught up in it. But I do want to cover a couple of things because of my personal experience of having to endure and then survive and kind of do things on your own. So my message was always, and I know Norm and Coach Don would say things to me like, man, you need to like knock off the lone wolf stuff and teach them that they can meet the right people. And so I would always be like, okay, and if you think you're keeping your boyfriends when you're going to college, you're just stupid, because how can you not go to college and not experience things? And if you don't experience things and try things, and all within good context, but then you'll never know. And if you're going to save yourself for this or that, and but I've seen it a couple times now, and I've seen enough of our alumni manage a relationship, and I would imagine there still had to be a certain amount of freedom. There still had to be a certain amount of, and there were some unknown. But what was the trick to allowing things to happen so that you could stay together while you were off of college? Because that's a tough one to pull off.
God bless his soul. I don't know how he did it. If it were me here, I don't know how he did it, but he's very, very.
He gave you your space.
Oh yes, and to this day, we're still engaged, and it's like good, yeah.
So he's not obsessive.
No, not at all.
That's big.
Very. There's a difference between.
So find yourself a man that's not.
Find yourself a man that lets you wear what you want, do what you want, and still respect yourself.
And he does what he wants.
Exactly. Never. I don't nag. I don't say. I will never forget to this day. One of the best things he ever taught me was, when you have your husband one day, it's you never. How did you say it? We need to talk. No man likes coming home.
Can we talk?
Yes.
But there's plenty of ways to say that. Hey, let's meet later and go over a couple things.
Exactly. Hey, when you get home, let's go do something and have a conversation.
You gotta run something by you real quick.
And for me, it's always the let's talk is I have bunnies and I'm always coming home with one, and he knows when I say, hey, can I talk to you? It's probably that.
It's probably that. You said bunnies?
Like rabbits. They are my pride and joy.
What do you find them on the side of the road? And you go to the pet shop?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, because you don't just find rabbits, like you're stopping off at
they're beautiful. I have 2 lion heads. If anyone knows rabbits, look them up.
Has anyone told you don't need to keep picking them up? You just kind of get 2 and then...
I'm down to 2 now. 2 boys, but...
What were you up to?
4. 2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah.
That's not bad.
It is.
Like you had a whole... I don't know what they call it, a flock of rabbits. I don't know what they call it, a bunch of...
He was like, I'm going to come home one day and you're going to have a little farm in our backyard. And I was like, yeah, sounds right. But to get back, okay.
So he gives you your space, there's room, and allows you your rabbits.
Exactly. And, if he says like, probably not, which he's very good about not being like, no, you can't do this. It's like, yeah, probably shouldn't. Then I know it's like, okay, it's pushing it.
So there's a respect for
each
other's opinion. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you've got some pretty good ingredients there.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you young people that seem to find some of the right stuff to make it happen. So we're excited for you, Lex.
Thank you.
Tell me what you're doing now. So you've been back home?
Yeah.
And are you, putting an hour somewhere? What's your lifestyle like right now?
Yeah. Well, when I came home, didn't have a job, wasn't in a hurry, nothing. My parents didn't really push me. And then...
Did you need that little bit of a space, or did you feel uncomfortable with that?
No, I needed a little bit of space because I was like, I don't know, So
you're okay when people are going, what are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm like.
So what are you doing now?
Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
I'm okay. I'm fine with it. I'm like, just.
Figuring stuff out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was 22 coming home. I'm going to pick my career for the rest of my life. It wasn't happening to me, at least.
I think that's good for people to hear.
Yeah.
Because we get, and again, I say this often, but we go from this achievement mode. Okay, let's get the good grades, let's study. And then snap, you're done with college and it goes to providing.
Yeah.
Are you providing for yourself? What are you doing for yourself? It's like, whoa. What about finding my purpose? What about figuring out something that I love to do on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and not just love the weekends. So I think that's an important part of it. So anything, if I would like to ask the question this way, if there's something that you could get paid every day to do that you love every single day, does anything stand out? And don't say raise rabbits.
No. I really ask myself that almost every day. I'm like, I still to this day don't know what I want to do.
The only denominator I have from my younger days to now was that I wanted to be involved in sports or music. I wanted my life to feel like a party. So I wanted to have some degree of like every day going, hey, yeah. And not like, oh, hey. And so not knowing, if you would have said to me at your age, especially your age, that I was going to be a softball coach when I'm 53, and, I would have known how to really put that in my head, and I would have said, no, like that doesn't sound anything, but the ingredients of my life, I don't think you can, it's not just a softball coach. I think you can do this with a lot of different things. I mean, these conversations, everything, it's just live. So I ask only to know where that story is right now, but sometimes the story is that there's not an answer yet. And that's beautiful, because I think there's a lot of people, Lexi, that need to know that, look, don't stress and don't go and do something and grab something. And then next thing you know, how time flies, 5-10 years later, you're like, why did I do that? I did this for the money, or I did this so that I can do this. And in the end, enjoy your freedom. I mean, if you're able to eat and somehow you're getting food on the table, and, keep exploring. I can't even think in my mind, and I certainly don't call myself the most mature minded person, but at 25, 26, I might have just barely been starting. So hey, crazy. More power to anyone that knows ahead of time, and they can pick their career at 17 and they're loving it to 47. But I ask people to be patient with themselves and don't stress
parents too, because it can be, I may be as calm on the outside, but inside it gets hard, where it's like, well, I need to figure it out. Everyone else, my sister, she's the same age as me, knows what she wants to do, loves her job, good. Me, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Yeah.
But hey, it's better to have the room to explore.
Exactly.
And fly.
Not everyone figures it out right away, and who knows?
But here's what I know. I know that every couple of years when you call me and you come by, that you're going to be owning it, and you're going to be loving what you do, and for the terms you're doing it with. And again, I appreciate you coming and sharing this conversation, because I want most of our podcasts, our coaches and parents listen to. I think it would have to have a little different type of message or presentation if we're really going to try to reach our players. There will be times, and I may ask you to come back, that we do specific things. In fact, later today, we may shoot we call it an in the cage segment. And so we might go over the Lexi Robles sneak bunt, and the fact that you're in your daily clothes, I think it might make it even better. So we'll think about that. But thank you so much for coming in.
Of course.
And, gosh, do you talk to any of the old teammates at all? You ever? You said Kayla, you still are best friends with?
Yeah, I haven't talked to her in a little bit. I know she's working and stuff too, but dabble here and there.
Shout out to all the Lakewood lady Firecracker girls, and so many of them went on to do great things, and but now back in the real world, right?
Real world. I do miss that group. I miss them all.
Yeah, well, it was a special time. Like I said, we have had a lot of special chapters, but that in particular was a special group, and everything from the discipline and the learning curve of being a ball player to watching you guys become the people that you are, the value that you had to your programs in all different ways that you created that value. And I will tell you, hearing it from your coaches. And so that always makes me more proud than a statistic. But Lex, love you a lot. Really glad that you came back, and we'll look forward to getting you back in the studio. And maybe at that time you'll be Mrs. Garcia.
Oh my gosh.
At that time. All right.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming in. Okay. Let's go grab some lunch.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You're very welcome.